Hello and welcome. Thank you for viewing this educational segment presented by Buying Behavior Metrics. I'm your host, Martin Smith, author of The New Exhibitor and the new Lean Six Sigma Orange Belt for Exhibitors. These and other exhibiting tools are available on our website at bbmgo.com. Please go to the site and make use of the tools. You will find them to be extremely valuable in implementing and improving your exhibiting and event purchase experience. Welcome back. I'm Martin Smith, founder and president of Buying Behavior Metrics, and this is part 3 of the 5-part series on space design. In this video session, we will discuss entrance barriers. If you have not watched part 1 and 2, please stop the video and go back and watch those 2 segments first, as they build upon one another. As mentioned in part 1 and 2, the first design elements create force field and castle wall effects respectively. The topic of discussion for this video typically occurs as a result of the gaps space designers leave between the castle walls and/or product displays. These gap entry points typically end up being too narrow to allow easy access into the space. Often, they are at 90 degrees to the flow pattern of the attendees off the aisle, which precludes them from sliding easily into the space. These entrance barrier designs drive specific behaviors which are referred to as portcullis effects. In medieval times, a portcullis was used as an entry gate to a castle. There was often a drawbridge which opened up into a small room with a portcullis or gate on the other side. Once inside the gated area, wagons were searched for contraband and undesirable renegades or bandits. Inside this area, guards on the walls could shoot them with arrows or pour boiling oil down onto the would-be assailants. Sadly enough, exhibit spaces are often built with very similar narrow entryways. The previously mentioned castle wall design will have gaps that are often used as entry and exit points for the space. These structures drive staff people to walk the perimeter like guards, keeping a watchful eye out for any would-be attendees that might try to storm the castle to see the company's new offering. Another variation of the portcullis entry point entails the use of headers, which form gated entrance areas. Space designers will often construct 2 side structures and connect them overhead with a sign or header. When exhibitors build a header, it becomes a gateway into the space, which can discourage attendees from entering the space readily. It simultaneously encourages staff members to project sentry duty activity at the gateway. These header structures are referred to as torii gates. In ancient civilizations, cities along waterways would construct torii gates, and they were built in the water as a gateway into the city. These were freestanding headers that boats would pass through to show the inhabitants of the city that they were peaceful, friendly visitors and not hostile invaders or pirates. They would also use these entrances to symbolically represent a change during a celebratory event such as a wedding. The newlywed couple would pass through the gateway on a boat to show that they were entering as a new family. Ranchers in the Old West picked up on this method as a means to mark their territory in the wide open plains and keep cattle rustlers and free-range grazers out. This tradition is carried over even today. It's rare to find a dude ranch anywhere in the United States that does not have this type of gated entrance, and passing through it immediately gives you the feeling like you're in the western frontier. Many youth and family camps like Young Life's Frontier Ranch use these to enhance the western flavor of the environment. However, exhibitors must remember that design drives behavior, and elements such as torii gates and portcullis structures will drive specific transition zone behaviors. Transition zones are areas where attendees are getting acclimated as they move from one area to another. The rule of thumb with transition zones is that the greater the change in environment from one area to another, meaning the changes in temperature, colors, textures, size of the area, navigation points, number of people, proximity of items, the flow, etc., the greater the change in environment, the larger the transition zone space must be. Greater variation from area to area requires more adjusting by the attendees, consequently requiring a larger transition zone space. Keep in mind that this also translates to mean even if the only transition is from the safety of the aisle to the tension of entering a booth space, it still requires some transition space. In the same way that walking from the sidewalk at a person's house requires a transition space because you've left the public area and entered a private area, and leaving the walkway to enter the actual home requires another transition area. Event spaces induce similar behavioral characteristics. The challenge with transition zones is that people walking through these areas are typically incapable of engaging with their surroundings. Consequently, marketing and sales activity executed in these areas is typically wasted. Subsequently, force fields, castle walls, and barrier entries are excellent design elements to use based on properly understood goals and objectives at events. For example, due to drinking and smoking laws, exhibitors at shows like National Restaurant Association wall their spaces off and have guarded Tory Gate entrances. Companies like Philip Morris and R.J. Reynolds do this in order to verify that no one under 18 years of age enters their booth space. This walled-in fortress design conveys a much-needed soulful message of conscientious compliance for these companies. It also reassures attendees who come with their families that their children will not be allowed to enter and pick up free samples. At events like the RSA conference in San Francisco, some of the exhibitors wall in their spaces because they're dealing with very sensitive computer systems and information. The impression they want to create is one of stealth and hacker-proof security. Walling in their spaces helps them to accomplish this goal. It also helps them to reflect a company's soul of security and innovation. Unfortunately, most exhibitors who use these design elements don't understand the effect they have on their attendee and staff behavior. Consequently, they fail to connect these elements with the success or failure in reaching their target attendees and ultimately their marketing goals. Instead, they misuse them and unknowingly drive behaviors that are in sharp contrast to those they need and want to create. For example, one year, Hewlett-Packard designed an enclosed, walled-in space and even required attendees to go through a completely separate registration and qualification process before entering. They created a great deal of anticipation for attendees at the event. The risk with this situation is that once inside, the space has to live up to these great expectations. Attendees expected and deserve to see some top-secret product or at least something revolutionary to the industry. If there's nothing new or revolutionary about the experience or the product offering, the people will be disappointed and they would walk off with a strong feeling of dissatisfaction, which unfortunately is what happened. Activities like this must be carefully thought through and executed because the experience inside a closed-in space has to live up to hype and anticipation created on the outside, and it reflects a soul. Our research clearly shows that if you don't deliver on your own hype at an event, attendees will not trust you to deliver outside of the event either. They make powerful assessments about the company's soul in intense personal encounters such as these. These three design elements are effective in driving constrained or restricted attendee contact behaviors. Therefore, exhibitors must be particularly careful, especially in the earlier phases of the sales process, not to reflect a soul that is closed off. Attendees are shoppers, and they want to see an open, receptive soul. They're looking for an environment that welcomes them in. They are also driven to search for the best possible products and services to satisfy their fundamental needs and desires. At a deep psychological level, they compare the costs of searching out an offering to the advantages and benefits that the product or service readily provides to their lives. These search cost drivers are what helps them decide if they want to move off the aisle and into a booth space. If there are little or no barriers to entry, the space will not require attendees to expend a great deal of energy to slide into them. Consequently, it only takes a minor force to change their direction and draw them in. Once inside, revealing the diversity of product or service offerings and the company's fit to the attendee's needs and subculture will eliminate the desire to look around and motivate attendees to purchase. If the benefits are readily apparent, the attendee's search cost drivers in the form of time, treasures, and talents to consider utilizing the offering will be lowered. Establishing the soulful connection between the company and the attendee will convert them into loyal advocates and ultimately into customers who purchase products. Fundamental to the exhibiting process is the understanding that design drives behavior, so make sure the behaviors driven are in sync with the goals and objectives established prior to exhibiting. In the next video segment, we'll look more deeply into the soul of a company by studying the different value stream drivers of design and the impact they have on specific target attendees. So I'll see you in the next video. In conclusion, allow me to thank you for your time in reviewing this material and for your interest in buying behavior metrics. It is our sincere desire to provide valuable offerings to help exhibitors create worthwhile purchase experiences and ultimately maximize their ROI. Please go to our website and explore all the online tools available at bbmgo.com. Thank you.